Good evening. Hello. I'm here. Preview's not quite caught up yet, but you're still seeing my desk over there. But it should catch. There we go. I'm going to be a little choppy tonight, so I apologize. I'm using my DSLR tonight. But we're going to talk about this little guy or this little girl tonight a little bit. So who do we have in the chat? Let's say hi to Jerry Knapp from 3D Printing and Painting. There's Dave Clark, Ben Brady, Rex Waldy, Jake from State Farm, David Sell, hello sir, Hopinaki, Snapshot FPV, David Harmon, the Park 88, Mark L. Baker, Michael Castle. Welcome everybody. I'm Richard, and I'm doing a solo act tonight. Brian looks like he's in the chat, but he's not on camera with us tonight. So yeah, that's where we're at. I know I'm a little choppy, so I'll try and keep that down. Ben Brady, gloom, despair, and agony on me. Why? What is going on there? I have no idea. But I'm talking about this little lady tonight. Before we get started, I do want to say, hey, there's David White from LA. Hello. We lost one of our own this week. Or last weekend. He was in the chat. Wiley's 3D passed away early Sunday morning, I believe, or late Saturday night and last week. And we all send out our condolences to his family while they're dealing with this tough time. I know they've asked to just kind of be left alone for a little bit while they deal with this. He was a member of this community and was always there to lend a comment and was always there in our chat room on Saturday night. So we will miss him dearly. Yes, we are going to miss Mike very, very much. And I just wanted to say that at the top of the show tonight. But let's get into something really cool. Let's talk about what's on everybody's printer. As you guys know, this week I put out a picture of the Beatles on Abbey Road, hoping that would kind of spark some people to do some prints this weekend. Let's talk about your prints. Let's talk about your printing experiences. We've got some stuff coming up in the show we'll talk about this next week and go from there. Okay, let's see. He's probably stuck in, no, there's no snow up here. Did I like the Kodak Deadpool? David Harmon is asking me. I did. How did that filament print for you? That Kodak filament didn't print for me and it didn't print for Ray. So I'm wondering how it printed for you. Sound and video look good there? Great. Thank you. So, setting up new printer area, Brian Baker says he's setting up his new printer area, expect to see some photos soon. So, I printed this young lady. This is one that I had sort of commissioned, and I didn't pay for the license for the artist, so he's free to go and put this up. It's on Cults 3D. It's on a couple of other pay websites as well. This is Rocket Woman, loosely based on the Betty Page Rocketeer look. I printed her with tree supports, so I'm just now taking off the tree supports. Here's the bulk of it at the that was at the bottom. So that's pretty much taken off now. I have a little bit more to do, so I'm going to be slowly taking that off during the show. I printed this in gray PLA. As you can obviously tell, it was gray PLA. It's our generic. It was supposed to be tough PLA, but It was sent to Spool 3D in as the wrong stuff. So I ended up taking it home and using it, and she came out pretty good. She was printed at 1.2 layer height, sliced in Cura, because you guys know me, I don't slice very much in Cura. So I sliced her in Cura so that I could test the tree supports. Everything's very solid. She's got 20% gyroid infill in her, so she's quite strong. But I think I've got a little bit of work to do on the face, and there's a little bit, very, very minor under extrusion on some of the hair area. So we'll end up cleaning her up and giving her a nice paint job and so on and so forth. So look, Greg Margaret, Greg's looking for some tips on painting. Well, we're going to talk about painting. We're going to talk a little bit about that tonight as well. On my printer is FPV parts, replacing what my son and I broke today. Ah, okay, so he's working on his printer. Printed fantastically. Use my flow 2%, David Harmon. Oh, good, okay. Victor Novak, hello, sir. Looking forward to some painting tips. That's from Greg. And upped my flow 2% rather than, oh, and you printed it, and it printed fantastic. So you upped your flow on that Kodak bright orange. I couldn't get it to print. Of course, Raymond Emsley, one of our moderators and my co-worker now, he couldn't get it to print. It failed on him. So great that you got it printing for you, David. That was the Kodak orange that I was sent from filaments.ca. Now I've got a bunch of other filaments that I'm going to be packaging up into sample kits, and I'm going to randomly start shipping those out. Those people that are waiting for their purge filament packets that the 12-1, those were supposed to go out last week, but things got delayed, so they'll be going out this coming week. I'm not in the studio today. I'm in my home studio. I decided to stay home this week, so we're going to. I needed some time off. Hey, there's John Kitchen. Hello, John. So we're diving right in tonight. We're just going to talk about your questions. I'm going to continue to clean her. Now this tree support material, it kind of got everywhere, so I've got to be very careful when I'm taking it off, so that I don't break any of the pieces, because some of this is wrapped around her fingers as well. So I've got to be very, very careful that I don't rip those fingers off. Hey, there's Raymond. I was just talking about you. So as this has worked, I mean, this worked out beautifully. I think these tree supports are actually quite cool. I think that they work great. You just have to be able to refine them. That's the problem with Cura, is that you can't really refine things as nicely as you can in Simplify 3D in terms of the support. But Simplify 3D doesn't allow you to do supports like this. So Ben Brady says they released the SKR Pro board today. In about 2 hours, he had 2 cases done. Wow, that's great. Ben saying the SKR Pro, I haven't read anything about it. I still haven't got my SKR boards, which I'm still waiting for, which I'm hoping are going to show up at some point in time in the very near future, because that would be nice. I'm very red light. Oh, I'm very red tonight, Stephen Snow says. Yes, I'm very red tonight. I wanted to... This is my weekend wear, so... David says you can tweak tree supports in Cura once enabled through the regular support menu. Now, the way I understand it is that the tree supports are a completely different animal than regular supports, Dave. So if you know something I don't, I'm all ears and I'd be happy to listen. Oh, I'm getting closer. slow. You guys are hearing all that crunching in the background. That's because I'm crunching off some of these tree supports. They're a little bit crunchy. But revealing the actual figure underneath is actually quite nice. We'll find out how good these are when my wife gets a hold of this model to start doing the final cleaning. Luke Gervais, he's saying, what is a SKR board? Well, the SKR board, Luke, is the 32-bit architecture board for 3D printing. And it is becoming quite popular because it's so cheap. It's only about 22 bucks US to buy one. And I have 2 of them on the way, but they haven't arrived yet, so I can't really give you a full lowdown on them until I actually have mine. Brian's got one, Ben's got one. There's a few people in our community that actually have them. Well, let's see if I can pull this one piece off. All in one go. Nope. Did you water your tree supports to make them grow? No, I did not, actually. Although that's a good joke. It gets into some of the tighter areas. Ben says they may have issues. The boards have issues? That I'd be interested to know, is what issues the boards have. Go ahead and drop those in the chat if you have any insight into that. Anybody? Oh, here comes another big chunk. So all I'm doing is I'm just getting in and I'm grabbing these tree supports and I'm just kind of breaking them up with my needle nose pliers without trying to damage any of the actual model. I mean, it's a beautiful model. The artist did a wonderful job on it. Bonsai. Maybe I'll do a whole episode where we just take off supports. Well, that might be tonight, actually. Taking off the supports off this particular one is proving to be a challenge because they're kind of all over the place. But you can get a better look at the model now. I'll just zoom in here so you guys can see her. There she is. You can see I've still got some supports there. She came out pretty nice. There we go. Get that back into focus, or somewhat into focus. There we go. So Ben's saying it's an issue with quality, and there's issues with Marlin 2.0. They run the SmoothieWare by default. Jake says they absolutely run Marlin 2.0. Okay, so there's a little debate as to what happens there, but that's okay. That's what the show's all about, is, you know, debate and making sure we all have the right information at the end of the day. Tonight might be a short stream, just so you guys know. Oh, this is looking so much nicer now. See if I can get this piece off from around the helmet. This one might be a little tougher because her fingers are encapsulated in there. How am I going to do this? I do it like this, slowly but surely. That's right, don't call me Shirley. Now, you guys that are using the SKR board with Marlin 2.0, how are you finding it running right now? David Clark's asking, have you tried a soldering iron to remove supports with a knife attachment? No, I actually haven't, but that might be actually a really good idea. Something for me to try here very soon, because I'm going to have to snip a lot of this that I've got going right now. This is probably one of the easiest cleanup jobs I've done in terms of supports. But if 8-bit controller and the older software written for those for Cura 4 is not working, Rick Landon is saying, I don't know about that. I think that I've had no problems with Cura 4, Cura 4.1. This was sliced in Cura 4.1. Just that there's a lot of support on her. So Jake from State Farm saying the quality isn't the best. Screw terminals are fragile. Some pin headers not perfectly straight because it's so crammed, but that's what the SKR Pro is trying to address. Now, is there going to be a big price change in the SKR Pro? That's something I'd be interested in knowing. Oh, yeah. This is so satisfying, taking off supports. It's almost cathartic in a way, because you get to see the end result, or the result of all your painstakingly waiting for things to be done. So the SKR board will not fit into the Ender 3 geometry. That's interesting. The SKR Pro. David Clark, is there a difference between 4.0 and 4.1? On the surface, not really, no. I would say that on the surface, it's pretty much the same. I think what they did was they went back to the drawing board a little bit on some of the excess bits for different profiles, because not all the profiles were in there, and then they've added some profiles on top of that. So I think that that was probably the biggest thing. Oh, let's get this helmet undone. Okay, that didn't work. See if we can push those little eyepieces in. There we go. Now, like I said, this helmet came out absolutely beautiful. I think that this is probably one of the nicest models I've done print-wise in a long time. There's a little bit of layer issue there, but that's nothing that can't be cleaned up. There we go. Back to my handsome self. Thank you, Paul. That's the first person to wish me a happy Father's Day. Thank you, Paul. For all the dads out there, happy Father's Day tomorrow. I know that we're going to do a little celebration here at my house for my father-in-law, but I'm not sure what else is happening. Yeah, I think I'm going to try these supports yet again in the future, because I think they really, really worked out well, especially in that hair, because there's a lot of curl in the back of the hair. There's some small bits that I still have to pull out of here, but I may have to get the X-Acto in here and do some things with the X-Acto, but for all intent and purposes, this actually came out really, really nice. I'm really happy with this. I'm happy with the model overall. Scarring on the bottom, here, let me just see if I can show you guys that. Scarring on the bottom of her arms where the supports were is actually very, very minimal. You can see right there, it's very minimal. So that's going to be very easy for me to clean up. But yeah, she's looking great. I think I'm going to have to actually make her taller now. I'm going to have to do a taller one. But I'm really happy with that. A little bit more cleanup and she is good to go. Let's see if we can get that one piece out of there. There we go. So the bulk of that is done. I'm really happy with that. I'm going to be happy to paint this, put it on my shelf. So I'm pretty happy with this. The artist, he's on our Facebook page, and he's got a Russian name, and I can never pronounce it. It starts with a B. You'll have seen his work on other forums as well. His work is good. I will say that, you know, I think that people, for the most part, need to test print models before they send them out. And this was one of those cases. There was about 65 errors that I took into Mesh Mixer, and I really quickly fixed those errors. But when you're paying money for a model, you should not have to go in and fix errors before you can print it. This was printed at 200% scale. So she is roughly, let's see how tall she is. She's about 9.5 inches tall. So a nice little figure to paint and put on the shelf and go from there. Raymond Emsley, you can send it to me. Okay, yeah. Post links for anything that you guys are doing there for the board. And you can put them in the links below. Hey, there's Richard Taylor. Welcome, sir. I do have a little bit of work to do right there, and I'm going to need a kniff for it. And I just happen to have one over here in my painting area. So I'm just going to take this and I'm just going to get in there and try and get that little piece off of there without gouging the base. Because there's a piece on her shoe that's got to come off. There we go. We got it. Bane was only $10. Yeah, this one here I think was sold for $30, if I'm not mistaken. It was going for $30 or $35, which is not horrible. So that's not completely horrible. I think that's a decent price. And like I said, I'll just come back in with a knife and a file and I'll just clean up some of those other areas. But I'm happy with this. I mean, I'm happy with the model. I'm happy with the way this young lady came out. By the time I get all the supports off her, she again will be a completely different look. Then I sand her up and I'll put photos up on our Facebook page. Mesh Mixer is free, yes. And I've tried Mesh Mixer. Actually, am learning a little bit more about Mesh Mixer as I use it more and more. So got to try and get this one piece off of her hair. Just kind of stuck in there. Ah, there we go. Ha ha! Success. We have success. I think we're getting off on, Bean was only $10. You know, I don't want to get into this debate about designers again and their worth. I got into that before and I don't want to get into it again. It's a drama I prefer to stay away from. I believe, my personal opinion is, if you do the work, you should be paid for the work. And if your work is good, you should be paid top dollar, plain and simple. I don't think people should steal other people's work. I think that's wrong. And I've said that in the past. And I got caught up in defending a bunch of artists, which only caused me a lot of pain in the end. And it cost me a lot of time to deal with it. So as far as that goes, designers should be paid for their work. I fully agree with that. And I don't think people should steal other people's designs. I think that's just asinine. And anybody that would go ahead and steal another person's designs, well, we all know how I feel about that kind of stuff. So there's a couple of areas in here I'm going to have to get my knife into. How are your fingers? My finger's doing much better, Paul. Thank you very much for asking. It's doing much, much better. I will be back up and running fairly soon with the tutorials on Patreon again. I'm going to have to look at this model because something just kind of doesn't look right here to me. But yeah, I'm going to have to look at the model. But yeah, she came out really good. I'm really happy with her. I'm very happy with the sculpt. I'm very happy with the design. A little bit of work to do, like finer detail work to clean up, but she'll be good to go. All right, so we got her all cleaned up, as much as we're going to do right now. The intrinsic worth of the designer, Richard, is that a model worth more than 10? Absolutely it is. I believe that it is, and I paid 35 for it. I believe 30 or 35. I can't remember exactly which one it was. But I did pay for it, and like I do with 90% of the models that I have in my library, I've paid for or gotten them from a free source. Very few models, and I've gotten a few, and I won't say that I haven't, but I have gotten a few from designers that have asked me to print or attempt to print. And I have some in my stable that I'm going to be printing and painting for later this year. I'm going to be holding an auction later this year, probably closer to Christmas, where all of the painted pieces that I have, I will be auctioning off. Part of that money will be going to upgrade our studio, and part of that money will also be going to the neonatal intensive care unit at the Foothills Hospital. So it's kind of my way of helping our community, helping our hospitals, and giving money to where it is badly needed. And then, of course, helping us to bring you guys better quality at the end of the day. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. If nobody's got any more questions or that sort of thing, we're going to call it an early night. There's no Brian tonight. There's no Raymond. I should have called Raymond, but it was a little too late. But other than that, that's kind of where we're at right now. And so I will see you guys again on Wednesday. We got a brand new episode coming out, so make sure you stick around for that. Monday, we'll be seeing a brand new episode on Patreon with Superman. We've gotten a little bit further on him. You guys can see that we've been moving along on Superman, and those episodes will start going up very soon. Dave Clark's asking, when I buy models, are you okay to sell them, or do you have to ask the designer? Well, most of the licenses that I get are not for me to sell the model. They're for me to finish the model. So once I've finished the model, I can't sell it in its raw STL form. I can't distribute them in their raw STL forms. But most designers will allow you to print them, paint them, and then offer them up for sale. So yeah, that's what we're going to do. Somebody wanted to talk about painting. So before we go, we'll talk a little bit about painting. If you are on my Patreon, that's where you're going to see all of my painting now. You're not going to see it so much on this channel, just because it takes a lot more effort to do than, say, putting together a weekly episode for you guys. But as far as painting goes, I use my acrylic paints. I use a variety of different acrylic paints. And if you want to check anything out, just go up to our Patreon, and there are some painting videos that are in our library of videos here on YouTube. So you can always go check those out. I think there's some Hulk painting videos that I did. And then we're just kind of getting some color on them. We were doing some airbrushing. So, but everything I use is acrylic paint, and I do seal all of my paints with low odor clear matte spray. And that's pretty much it. So happy Father's Day to everybody that are fathers, and hope you guys have a wonderful Father's Day tomorrow. Mothers, if you're watching this, treat your men right. Okay, give them a happy Father's Day. And I will see you guys again on Wednesday when we release a brand new episode. Then I'll be back here next Saturday, and we'll have a much more prepared topic for you. Okay, so until next time, my friends, remember that the first layer is always your foundation to a great print, and have yourselves a fantastic weekend.